and filters in Google Analytics. And as Melissa said, my business is 360 Internet Strategy, and I help people with getting online. So the first thing we're going to do today is we're going to talk about the differences between segments and filters. So segments here on the left, filters on the right. So we'll talk about the filters first. Filters are something that you do with your data that's permanent. So permanent change to your Google Analytics data. You are removing data from your account permanently. It's also data moving forward. So if you want to apply this data or apply this filter, it's only going to affect your Google Analytics account moving forward. The third thing with filters is that it affects everyone's view of analytics. So if you are, you and 5 other people have access to an analytics account and you use a filter, that's going to affect how your data appears to everyone. So you're removing it in your analytics account. The one, number 4 for filters here on the right side, it's something that's done by an administrator, so somebody who has higher level permissions on account. And you're going to hear me say many times today is to be very careful. It's a permanent removal, permanent change to your account. You definitely want to be careful. And then we'll get into the segments piece next. So we'll start with the filters. I'm going to show you this on the screens here, and then we will go ahead into the live account. I do the slides kind of so you have this as a reference if you're doing this later on in your account. And in the admin area of analytics, and I'll walk you through views and filters. If you're looking in your account and you don't see an option to create a filter, it's probably because you have lower level privileges, and you'll want to talk to someone in your office who has higher privileges that can do that for you. Screenshot here is just for your reference, and again, we'll go into the account that we're looking under admin, and then the right side of your account or screen that says view, and then you go in there, and that's where you start working on your filters. The one thing to make sure you notice is that where it says create new view. So whenever you are getting ready to apply filters, you want to make sure that you create a new view before you add a filter, simply because it is a permanent change in your account. You'll log in and you look at view, and then you do create new view. So you're having a clean, I guess a container, think of it that way, as a container for your data before you start adding those filters. That you go into filters, you start to add a new filter, and you can see I will have one here, and I'm going to walk you through the couple that I have in the slides here today. And again, this is just so you have the reference later. In this case, what I'm doing is I'm adding a filter to a view to exclude office traffic. This is a very common use of filters, is you want to exclude your office traffic because your office is not your buyers, right? So you see here, exclude office traffic. I always recommend naming it something that's going to make sense later on. The way we're excluding the traffic is we're excluding traffic IP address. I just made this up, but if this is the IP address for your office, what you're doing is you're excluding the traffic that is coming from your office. So you're not getting the data from your coworkers. So we named the filter. Again, it will always be something that you'll remember later on. Use predefined or custom. We're just doing a predefined one at the moment. And we're doing exclude. You're going to see there's exclude, include. There's different options, and then our criteria, which in this was excluding the office traffic. I'll show you another one before we go ahead and look at this in an account. You follow the same steps. This one is a filter to look at AdWords data only, right? And I would recommend think carefully about your filter names, because if it's AdWords data, that's just the name of the AdWords data. Does that mean you're including your AdWords data or you're excluding your AdWords data? So you want to make sure that it's something that's going to make sense 6 months down the road. We're still doing a predefined. We're including instead of excluding. The name says we're looking at AdWords data only. So you're including. Now, campaign medium tells you about the traffic that's coming to your site. So we're including the medium of CPC, which is cost per click. So you can see how we might do an include and an exclude. I'm going to come back over to here the quick start and go ahead and share my screen. And if you wouldn't mind putting in the, in the chat box or the Q&A that you can now see my analytics screen, then I know I'm all set there. Just kind of everybody can see this. Let me tell you a little bit about the account we're in right now. This is a hobby site that I have where it's called books.tinarnoldi.com. There's no new generating from it. I just happen to be a book lover, and I'll occasionally put reviews, not as much as I used to, but I use this one when I'm teaching just because there's no, client information or competitor information in here. So getting started, here I'm in my books account, and instead you come over to your admin area. I'll do a filter. Let me show you an existing one, and then I'll walk you through again the steps for creating it. So I have a view that I called AdWords Data Only. So what I'm doing here, so with this books account, I also use this account when I'm teaching AdWords classes, which is why you think, well, if you're not monetizing it, why would you send AdWords, but I can get an AdWords click for this site for maybe 5-10 cents. So for me to throw $10 in once in a while to use it as a teaching account, makes sense for me. So one of these I have is a view of my AdWords Data Only. So this is one that's already created. So I'm showing one that's created, and then we'll create a one. Data Only. Let's take a look at the filter that I have in here. AdWords Data Only. When I click Data Only, you'll see what I did here is what you'll see on the screenshot. So it's the AdWords Data Only where I'm including a medium of CPC. So I'm including only my AdWords data. You walk from scratch to how to do the excluding office traffic. Exclude office traffic. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to create a new one. Office traffic. Again, something that makes sense in your zone. And then I create the view. See, I have a view of exclude office traffic. So I use my filter, and I'm going to use the same name that I have. I name the filter the same thing as the view. So again, the view is the collection of your data, and the filter is how you're adjusting the data. So I'm excluding my office traffic. So exclude. Let me show you for your IP address. I'm just going to hop on over to this site. If you don't know what your IP address is, you can go to this What is my IP screen, and that'll give you your IP address. So now I'm going to just make this up. I'm going to say that my office traffic 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, just making up numbers here. So once I save this, I'm going to have a view or a collection of my data that's going to get rid of all of my office traffic. Now, if you have a small office with a few people and they don't spend a lot of time on your company website, you may not need to do this. This is important if you work in an office and there's maybe 100 of you. And if people are accessing the website, then obviously that's a problem. If you don't have your real customer data, customers are mixed with employees. And so it's a commonly used filter, but definitely should have you should have separate views for what you're doing. I will show you a couple other filters. Let me just go ahead and discard that. One that is all of your data. You might even want to name it, no filters added. So you have one, what I call a raw view, where you have everything, your office traffic, your AdWords, your spam traffic, your everything else, to just have one profile. So let me a couple other filters that you can use. Of course, I'm not going to apply them to here. I just want to walk you through a couple common ones that I've seen before we move over to segments. A filter is to have one for a specific area. So I'll call this, I live in South Carolina, so I'm going to call this SC only. And I'll say this filter, I'm custom. you already see I gave this a bad name when I just said SC. So I'll say include SC only. You should probably spell out South Carolina in case you work with you in different areas. They may not automatically know what that is. So my filter field would be and back up. I see what I did here. So I went to include, but what I wanted, went to exclude, but what I want is include. So I'm going to include, and if you're wondering if one of your analytics fields is something that you can do a filter on, you always come in here and just start typing. And if it comes up, then you know you're good. So that I can include, and I'd probably want to look back at my data to make sure it's, spelled South Carolina, which I believe it is with geographics. And once I do this, then I am including my South Carolina data only. So the reason you might want to do that is if you are a national campaign or a national company, or if you're looking to do some new marketing efforts in South Carolina or whatever state or city, that you might want to isolate that data to look at it. Okay, another one is a lowercase filter. And so just create this one and I'll show you. Or medium. Okay, so a campaign medium, again, this is something that describes how data is coming into your site. And what happens sometimes is when people are creating campaigns and they're adding tracking, these are little probes that you add at the end of links so you can track exactly where your traffic is coming from. Some people will use CP as a capital letter, capital C, capital P, capital C. And other times people who are doing your campaigns may use lowercase, like lower c, lower p, lower c. The problem is that Google will see those as two different things. They see an uppercase CPC as one thing and a lowercase as a different thing. So you're going to see multiple lines of data for the same exact thing. So if you find that you're looking at your data, that you're seeing that, and you just simply do a lowercase filter on a specified field, then if things are not named consistently, this will change it to lowercase, so it makes it easier for you to look at your data. More before we go over to segments, so discard that. And again, you see I'm doing this under this kind of for demo purposes, not creating a new view. I just want to see different filters. But if I were to do this filter where I'm looking at blog, it of course would not be under something called exclude office traffic. So my filter, I'm going to say blog traffic only. Is we will include traffic subdirectories that contain blog. Of course, this assumes that your site is website.com/blog. The reason you might do this is because you have a really active blog, and that's a huge part of your strategy, and you want to isolate that traffic only. Or maybe somebody's job at your organization is just to do the blog, and this makes it easy for them to focus on just that piece. So what I said is I only want to include my traffic to blog. So we'll go ahead and come back to the presentation. Yes, make sure you can see the slides. And then we will kind of keep going through how to use segments. And then what I'll do, again, same thing I did here, is I'm going to take you through the slides so you have that as a reference. And then we'll go back over to my screen. We'll look at segments in a real account. When we start to get close to the end, we'll start doing some Q&A. So again, for now, we're just back to the slides, and then I'm going to share out my screen again in a few minutes. So we just got done talking about the filters on the right-hand side. So what we're doing now is we're going to look at segments, which is this on the left-hand side. So segments are temporary. So it is just letting you pull out a piece of your data in a specific session, right? So you log on, you look at something temporarily in a segment, you get out of your account, and all your data is still there tomorrow. It's not a permanent change. Right? You look at your data historically. So whereas a filter is your data moving forward, the segments will let you look back in time. A you apply a segment, it's just affecting your view of data. So if your coworkers log in, they're not going to see, they're not going to see any of this information. So this is just something for your view. And again, since it's not a permanent change to your data, it's not anything, you're not going to ruin things. So there, you don't have to worry about the rights that you have. And then again, so no harm done. You create a segment, you don't like it, you have not made any kind of permanent changes to your data. About some reasons that you might use it is if you want to compare different channels. So you want to look at your paid versus organic, or you want to look at traffic from mobile devices versus desktop devices. So just different ways of looking at your data. So all of these things over here that are built into analytics, these are things that you can use as segments. So you could say a source of Facebook. You could say mobile versus desktop traffic. So that's where segments can do. I'll walk you through again, adding it here in the presentation, and then we'll walk through it live in an account. Segments, you're going to see this anywhere you are in your reporting. If you look to the top of your screen, you'll see this Add Segment option. And that's where you'll be adding segments, whether it's an existing segment or you're creating a new one. First, when we get into the segments, is that we are going to look at system. And this means these are the ones that are built into analytics. So, you Google, you might want to look at actions, you might want to look at direct traffic. If e-commerce site, you might want to look at who made a purchase. So these are the existing segments, which we're going to look at those first in a few moments. You can look up to at 4 at a time. So getting started, you might want to just look at 2 at a time. Like I gave the example of mobile versus desktop, or organic versus paid traffic. But if you want to, you just click on anywhere in here, and what you're doing then is you're adding a segment to this top row, and to 4 at a time. And then if you click apply, you see your data is going to look differently because you're looking at it in these different pieces. And it's clear when you see it live here. This one, which I'm going to show in my account, is this was a simpler one. As I said, I just want to look at organic. So if I check it down there, I'll see it up top. And I'll compare that to paid. And once I click paid, I see that up top. And then apply. And if I did that, I will see, as I'm looking in my account, I'm going to see the differences between the organic and the paid traffic. It will show, you can see a lot more. Let's see, this is organic, and the orange is paid. So there's a lot more happening with organic, but too, you can also segment out that paid traffic and see what's happening there. And that's kind of a screenshot of kind of an overview. Then you can drill into your data. So this is a little more detailed, where I'm looking at my organic traffic and paid traffic and looking at it in context of geography. So I look at, and this makes sense to me, so Canada, a few people came to this book blog organically. They just were on google.com and they found my site. And then traffic, no, because I wasn't, when I throw in my AdWords campaigns every once in a while, I haven't been marketing it outside of the United States. So it makes sense to see those results in here. And then create a new one, and I'll walk you through this as well. But if you're creating a new one, you're going to start in that same place of adding a segment. And of course, when you add, you can either grab one of the existing ones, or you can say, I want to create a new one. So you use an existing one or a new one, and I'll walk you through both. You're selecting what you want to see. So now Google gives you some of those built-in ones with bounce and mobile, but if there's not one built in that's exactly what you want, you can use this criteria over here, it's important, like maybe a specific language, and you save it, and so you now have this new segment that you can use in your account. And also, when you are doing that, you have the built-in, or you can go advanced, and don't be scared off by advanced. Advanced is great if you're wanting to just check multiple things at a time. Like I wanted to see this ad, and maybe for a specific geographic region or whatever you want to decide is where you might go to this advanced and use the conditions. I'll keep walking you through the next few slides before I switch over. The other thing I'll show you is that you can share out your segments. So if you have a segment that you really like, you can share it out with somebody else once you create one that seems to be doing well for you. And then I'll show you briefly this solutions gallery. This is where you have segments that are already created, so that can make your life a little bit easier. And the gallery, I'll show you how to work that, and then seeing how those segments work through. So let me come back and share and go back into analytics, and then those things I just showed you with segments, I want to show you that in a real account, so it makes it easier for you to use that later on. So I'm coming to segment, my reporting, and I generally just start an audience overview, but I could do the same thing in acquisition or any other area. But as I switch from one area, I see add segment here, overview area, and again, these segments, you can access them from multiple places. I will add a segment. I'm going to use a system segment, ones that are built in. You have to scroll. I mean, of course, you scroll through it maybe if you're curious about what's included. Let me back up. I did here. I'm still in that book blog view, which isn't going to have any data. So let me switch back to that a minute to my regular one. Add my segment. What I'll do for this example is I'll show you organic versus paid. So I don't want to go through everything here. I'll just go ahead and I'll search. And I see an organic traffic segment. Once I clicked it, it was added up here. And compare that to paid. So I click, that's added. So right now I'm looking at all of my sessions compared to organic and paid traffic. I'll do this. So you'll see, of course, this will be for all of you. You're going to have your all sessions is going to be 100%, right? Because, of course, there's got to be somebody who's on there. So that's 100% just for all of your data. You can do just up to 4 channels, but in this case, I'm just doing organic and paid. So you can see these numbers are pretty small. So the first thing that this tells me is that I'm probably getting a lot of referral traffic, right? Or direct traffic if paid organic is pretty low. Once I come down here, I can start to just kind of compare these different traffic sources together. And I could do, well, I think I will remove this, so I can look at all sessions by organic, by paid. But my goal is in this scenario is to just look at the organic compared to paid. I'm going to get rid of this all sessions. There's ways you can do that. You can click here and remove it, or when you go over to the left, your cursor change, you can just throw it away. Did that. So now I'm looking. Whoops, did I not throw it away? There we go. Okay. My organic and paid traffic. So it's applied. They'll stay as I'm looking through different areas on the left side. So right now I'm in my audience overview, and if anything's jumping out here. During this time period, there's a little more paid than organic. Paid, spent a little more time on the site, so you can just start an overview, seeing if there's a real difference with your traffic sources. You can come down here to, of course, I'll skip acquisition, because I'm looking at traffic sources. So I'm going to come here and do behavior next. So let's review behavior. You'll note that this didn't change. I've still got organic and paid. And let's see. Just tell it more like a little bit of a higher bounce rate and, et cetera. You can really drill in there. And then I'll do next, and I'll take a look at goals. That you want people to take on your site. So I have goals of, contact me, time on site. And you can also, here I can see that my organic traffic is completing goals a little bit more than my paid traffic. It's a use case of using segments. If you get out of the segment view and come back to your data in general, you just you do this, you can just throw these away. When you use away, it's going to default to all sessions. So it's always got to have something. So all sessions just automatically comes back there. So I'll next show you how to create a segment. The one we did first is we were just pulling some ones that were already created by Google. We'll do that in the same place. So you see up here, I'm still in Add Segment. So I'm going to do Add Segment and then New Segment. Create, I think of it to create. Pick one that's maybe at specific sources. I'll say I want a segment if my source is Bing or Yahoo. So we'll try and see what happens here. So I name it. Same thing with filters, reports, anything in your account, making sure you name it well so it makes sense later on. So I choose the condition of, and if I say Yahoo, let's see what they're from Bing. This a different way. Right, not getting a lot of data. As you're creating your conditions over here, it's going to give you a preview of what data you're going to get. So during this time period, I only had one from Bing, so not a whole lot there. So I'm going to say if my source is Bing or is Google. I didn't have anything coming from Yahoo. Okay, it's going to be quite a bit of my traffic. So once I save this and let it, where my source is Bing or Yahoo. And that you might, another one is Add Segment. The first visit July. Okay, so the reason that you would care about this is if you were doing a huge marketing campaign at the beginning of this month and you were doing both online and you were doing a lot of offline promo and you want to see what was happening, you would come in and you can do a condition a first visit. So if I say my first session, people who come to the site for the first time between July 1 and July 8. I'm not having any, I don't have any data here, so I may not have any visitors earlier in this month. But now once you have this segment, what you're doing, you're kind of making some assumptions that your traffic in early July might have been people who were coming as a result of your promotions. So making assumptions that, these are first-time visitors, then this can be a segment that you apply to see how their behavior is different. So I'll show you the gallery and the sharing options yet. So what I want you to know, though, about segment is temporarily, you're making changes to your data on a temporary basis. The other thing you can do is cross accounts or share them with other users. So I'll show you those sharing options. And anytime you want to do anything with a segment, you want to create one, add one, edit, copy, you're doing all of this from the Add Segment screen. So when I come to Add Segment, I will, here for Bing. Another thing you will notice if you do manage more than one analytics account like I do, when you log into analytics, you're going to see all of your segments in here. So whether it's, something from another, so I had a client I was running a Bing campaign on, and here in this little book account, I'm not doing a paid campaign on Bing. I am seeing this because that's something that I used, with a client. So here, you come in here, you're looking at segments, and over on the right side, you have your actions. So pretty clear cut, the edit is, the segment's maybe not doing quite what you want it to do, that you don't start from scratch. You come in here and edit it. The reason copy is helpful is if you did a segment that's pretty complicated, so it meets this criteria and this criteria and that criteria, and you want to work from it, but you change the existing one, that's why you would do copy. The share, I'll go ahead and click on that so you can see what happens. It means that I'm sharing only I'm sharing basically the skeleton of my segment. So I had a complicated segment. It's got 5 criteria, and I, copied this and I shared this URL. What you'll be getting in your account is the skeleton of that segment. So it wasn't sharing any data. It's just that you would be able to use the segment with your own, in your own account. On to just kind of watching time so we can have questions if you need it. We'll talk about the solutions gallery. The solutions gallery is extremely helpful for when you're looking at people who've maybe already created something that you need. So I'm going to import from the gallery. And I saw in the presentation as I was showing you. So I'm saying I want to look at segments, and this is just giving me a list of some, different things out there. So I'll go ahead and I'll just go ahead and pick this first one. Go ahead and say import, and what I'm doing is I'm importing the configuration for this segment. I won't pull this exact one in because there's so much information here, but these are all of the different types of segments that somebody already created that I can add to my account. So when you're doing import, you're not going to create something from scratch because, like I showed you here, some of your segments could probably be pretty complicated. If you have one and you're creating a condition and you're saying or this and this, et cetera, it can take a lot of time. So if you're getting started with segments, probably, the best way to start is to come in, add segment, some of the system ones. Just seeing what Google already has prepared for you, and you can see, I showed you organic versus paid traffic. You could look at mobile versus desktop traffic. So the system ones, if you see some there that you want to try out, you look through here and there isn't one that's quite what you're looking for. You can do a new segment. And again, these options here to the left are available to you. And if you're struggling a little bit, sometimes it can help to look at the solutions gallery. And again, that from a segment. You do import from gallery, and then you're looking at the ones that have already been configured. You're bringing them into your account, and then if you want, you can edit them once you bring them in. So they can at least do that beginning work for you, so you have that framework of what you want to change. To the slides, just kind of reviewing what these things are one more time before we go ahead and get some questions from people. I do repeat this a lot because it is really important for people to know. Is again, the segments are just while you're in analytics today and you're looking at data, and then when you come back tomorrow, everything was still as it was because it was temporary. When you filter to a view, it doesn't right. It's starts the day of moving forward. It's permanent. So when you say I don't want this traffic anymore, then it's gone. So a filter is permanent. I want to see what happened for the last month. It will be from when it's applied, to the future. Again, segments is just your view. You log into analytics and using a segment, it's going to look a certain way to you, whereas a filter is going to affect everyone who shares that account. Segments aren't limited to rights. If you're a user or an admin, that doesn't matter because it's not a permanent change. Anyone can create a segment. With filters, generally people with higher levels of rights, which makes sense since you can do some mistakes there. And again, segments, no harm done. You don't like it, it's not giving you the data that you want, then no problem there. Filters, I've seen some mistakes made in accounts, which is why I say it's always a good idea to have one raw profile or raw view so you don't lose any of your data. To the Q&A, I just will point out on the ASPE blog, this was a fairly recent article under my name. If you just go to ASP ROI and just look for Tina Arnoldi on just how to use segments and filter analytics. So that might be a good reference for you to use in conjunction when you get the slides from today's talk. It'll just kind of help you when you're getting ready to do that into your account. So, stop a little bit earlier today. Sometimes I go through these and I put too much information in and we only have about 2 minutes left. So we do have some time today for questions. If Melissa, you want to take this over?
I'm not questions at the moment. Everyone feel free to send them in using the Q&A function at the bottom of your screen. We'll wait minutes so that you have some time to send them in.
Too, that you want me to go back into my account to show you something in a segment or filter that wasn't clear, please let me know. Doesn't look in, and so I'm not sure if that's a good sign or a bad sign. So.
If anyone, please send them in. Otherwise, we'll wrap up. Doesn't look like we have. So it looks like that brings us to the end of the seminar. The presentation will be emailed to everyone by the end of next week. I want to thank Tina for an excellent seminar, as well as thank each of you for attending. That's it for today. We hope you enjoy the rest of your week.